everyone. Welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. Thanks again for spending some time of your day with me today. I greatly appreciate it. Well, I have a very special friend and colleague that I want to introduce you to. Her name is Irene Georgerian, and she is an actress based in California. And Irene, thanks so much for being here today. It's so good to see you.
Thank you, Deborah. It's awesome to see you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, because we were just talking before we went on live on camera, that you and I have known each other on and off since 1990 when we were on the set of Cadillac Man. How have you been doing ever since we met? Tell us about your life. Take us back.
Okay, well, that was a long time ago. So a lot has happened. If you want to go back from the very beginning, I'm originally from Massachusetts. I went to school in Boston. I have my business degree. And after college, I wanted to go to New York City to pursue business. And I did. I was in New York City working for corporate America. And I decided that I didn't like it after all that time and money. And I fell into acting by meeting someone actually she owned a modeling company, and she dealt with shoe models, not to be confused with foot models. Shoe models are needed for shoe shows. A lot of companies are selling shoes to different department stores, so they need the shoe models. And I just happened to fit the sample size, and I became a shoe model. And then I had my pictures taken, and at that time I had backstage trade papers. So I would look into backstage, and I saw auditions for a movie, and I sent my picture in, and I got work on the set of a movie. It was background work, and immediately I fell in love with the acting world. I took acting classes, dance classes, singing classes, and I became a waitress like all the other actresses in New York City, and that started my acting career. And then I'm sure a few years later, that's when I met you and our good friend Tom on the set of Cadillac Man.
Did you know when you were in business that you were feeling that it wasn't right for you, and that the moment you kind of dabbled into the entertainment world that was what you wanted to do?
Well, when I was in the business world, I quickly realized that there's nothing about the business world that I like. I don't like the constraints of 9 to 5. I don't like working for a boss. I don't even like the fluorescent lights. They were depressing. But at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted. So I just quit. I didn't have a plan or anything. I quit. And I just discovered myself, and I discovered New York City. And in the process, I met a lot of people, and that's how I met this one person who steered me into shoe modeling. And then, and that's how I found out about the backstage and acting and stuff like that. And as soon as I landed on that set, I was like, this is where I want to be. And I did all the things that were necessary to continue doing that.
When you moved to New York City, did you feel at home? Because you were there for many years, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I took a bus to New York City from my hometown, Haverhill, Massachusetts. I only had $300 in my back pocket, which I borrowed from my brother, and a suitcase, and I carried a sleeping bag. Just in case I couldn't find a place to stay, I was determined to stay in New York City. So, and so I looked for work, I looked for a place to stay, and then I stayed there for about over 10 years, definitely over 10 years.
And when you were in the city during those 10 years, what are some of the things that you pursued? Was it film? Was it television, commercials? What was it that you really loved to do?
Well, my first experience was on the set of a movie, so I absolutely loved it. And at the time, I was trying to find a good acting school, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a teacher that I really related to, that that I could learn from. So I decided, well, if I can't find a teacher, I'm just going to learn on the job. And I did a lot of plays. I did plays after plays. In fact, at one point, I had my own theater company. It was a small theater company. It was so much fun. And that's how I learned how to act, basically, on stage, just doing it.
And that's a really good point for the listener, the viewer right now that's thinking about pursuing an acting career or who's in it and trying to get their feet wet or move forward. Do you recommend the path that you chose? I mean, try theater, try to get involved and learn from doing?
Absolutely. And everybody has their own path. So, I mean, that my path, I just did theater because I couldn't find a good teacher. I couldn't get an agent, and in New York City, being in the union is very important. I wasn't in the union, so my only choice at that time was theater, and I absolutely loved it. I just embraced it, and it took me a long time to get my SAG card, which, you know, some people get it easy and some people don't. And yeah, so I did a lot of theater, basically, when I went to New York City.
Now, I introduced you as an actress from California. Tell us about the transition from New York City to California. What happened?
Yes. So as the years went by in New York City, my body just couldn't take the cold anymore. And I was getting depressed. I didn't want to do anything. So a friend of mine, an actress friend of mine in New York City, wanted to move to Los Angeles. And I said, I'm going with you. So I actually sold everything at a church street fair, everything that I had, for $1. It didn't matter. $1. I just wanted to get rid of everything. And I just had my suitcase. Once again, I had a suitcase, and I went to California with my friend, and we landed in Santa Monica in a really nice area, in a really nice apartment. And then the struggle started again because I didn't realize how different Los Angeles was. I mean, my mind was just different. It's just the culture, the way that people think. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Everything was backwards. So once again, I was like starting from scratch again, but I just wanted to focus on my acting. And as soon as I was able to get some work to help me pay the bills, then I started pursuing my acting. I started taking classes. I got a really good teacher, and then it started again. And then it was easier for me to get an agent or a manager. And they had networking groups for actors to help them out. That really helped me a lot, because those groups had people who already were in the industry. They knew information that could help all of us, and that was really, really helpful.
Do you find the market from New York City to California being different? What happens in the city as compared to what happens in LA? Is it all theater in New York? Is it all film in California? What did you find the difference?
Definitely. It's mostly theater in New York, and it's high-end theater. I mean, Broadway, and even off-Broadway is pretty high-end. You really have to be professional and know your singing, dancing, and acting. Whereas here, where this is, basically it's Hollywood, where the film capital almost of the world. I believe India is the film capital of the world with Bollywood. They make more movies than any country. But all the films come out, most of the films come out of here, or at least they get cast out of here. Even if they're filmed in New York City, they may be cast here in LA. So when we have all the TV shows and and commercials. There are some in New York City, but the majority of it is here in Los Angeles.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned commercials, because I refound you which of course is a story that we both know, on a Good RX commercial within the past year, and you were playing the pharmacist, and I said, oh my God, that's Irene Georgerian, I have to find her. And so I was able to find you through the computer, through your agent, to you, and we've been in touch ever since. And let's talk about commercials, because I've had other performers on who really haven't talked about it. What is that industry like?
Yes, it's totally different. So commercial acting is different from TV acting, which is different from film acting, which is way different from theater acting. And then once you get into TV, comedy, sitcom comedy is different from drama. So you have to find your niche, and the only way to find it is to just do whatever you can, do all of it and see what happens. And so what happened was commercials found me, really. I was getting more work in commercials, so I got really good at it. And I actually, before this mess, I was able to make a living out of it. So commercials, once I took a really good commercial class, and I tell you, acting class is so important for any type of acting work. And so I took a really good commercial class, and I incorporated it into my auditions, into my acting, and it really helped me book commercials. And so I was booking commercials. I was either getting, I was getting auditions, I was getting callbacks, and then I was booking. So in commercials, they basically, they say it's 95% look, and it basically is 95% look. What they're looking for, they have an idea, sometimes they don't, but you have to be your best. Your best is looking professional, behaving professional, and improv class is extremely important in all types of acting, and especially commercial, because you walk into the audition and a lot of times there's no speaking, there's just, they want to see you do something, or even say something. They just want to see your personality. So they'll ask you like crazy questions or silly questions. So you have to be ready to answer them with energy and enthusiasm. And anything could happen. You never know. And that's what a commercial audition is like. Oh, also what's really important is being confident. And being positive. When you're in the waiting room, it's really, really, really important to be positive and confident. So when you walk in the room, that's the first thing they see. And I tell you, I've heard it more than once. In fact, every casting director will tell you that they know if you're going to be the top 3 pick as soon as you walk in the door. As soon as you walk in the door, you don't even have to say anything. It's your vibe, it's your confidence, it's your attitude, it's how you express yourself, how you relate to the casting director or to whoever is in the room. It's very important.
Okay, let's hold that thought. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Smart TVs and streaming services have taken over the television industry. VSC TV is proud to announce our presence on Apple TV and Roku to make watching your favorite shows even easier. You can access this service by downloading the Cablecast ScreenWeave app. Then choose Valley Shore Community TV from the list of channels. Select VSC TV Live to watch our channel in full HD. Or pick a show from our on-demand video library. VSC TV is your local Connecticut Midshore Valley digital connection.
Welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and again, thanks so much for spending time with me today and my guest. And my guest continues to be Irene Georgerian, an actress based in California. And Irene, also, thank you very much for spending time with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, we were talking about commercials. Tell us how things are doing out there with COVID. I know everybody's got a story. What's it like in California?
Yes, well, like everything shut down at first, and then they started opening up, which is really good. But now they don't have in-person auditions anymore. You can't walk into a room and, meet the casting director. Everything is now self-tape, which means you have to self-tape your audition at home. So you have to be your own production company, pretty much. And the good part is you can keep doing it until you get it right. The bad part is there's no interpersonal connection with anyone, especially the casting director, which I always think is important. But that's the way it is. So it's self-tape and or Zoom auditions. Usually the Zoom auditions are your callbacks. I would prefer that Zoom auditions were the Zoom was the audition itself, because at least you had some type of interaction with another person. But, that's the industry, so that you have to embrace it and do the best that you can.
When you're saying self-tape, what does that mean? Is it, do you need a studio in your home? Is it by your phone? How do you do that, and then how do you get it to the proper person?
Good question. So self-tape is, I have a tripod, an expensive tripod. I put my cell phone on it, and then this background right here, this is a bed sheet. So you need a blank background. So they do make backgrounds for self-tapes, but this is good enough for me. And then for lighting, you have to face the window, or you get a lighting, like one of those round lighting things, and it's a lot of work. And then they send you the sides, and then you read, and then you do your acting on your cell phone. A lot of times you need a reader, so that's really tricky, because sometimes there isn't anyone around to read with you. So I don't know, what do you do? I just do my part and hope that they like it without the reader. I don't know. And then they have a link where you download the video to the link, and they get to see it right away.
Now, two things I want to ask you is the agent and the SAG card. Tell us how you secured your agent.
Oh, my agent. Well, I was getting some agents when I got here, and managers, and they weren't that good. And then there was a time when I just didn't have one. So like I was telling you before, I belonged to an acting networking group. And I was at one of these meetings, and I just turned to one of my acting fellows, and I said, "Do you have an agent?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And he said, "If I send you my demo reel and my resume, and if you like it, would you please send it to your agent to see if she likes me?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, I will." Sure enough, she liked me, and she's been my agent ever since. And I do that with other actors that I meet. I do the same thing. I personally send their information if they have a demo reel, or they need a demo reel, and they need a good resume, they need good headshots. And if they have all that stuff, I will personally send it to my agent, because that's the best thing you can do for your fellow actor, really.
Well, you're mentioning demo reel, your resume, and your headshot. Are all three of those important?
Absolutely, extremely important. I mean, the first thing that a casting director sees is your headshot. So first of all, you want it to look like you, not a younger version, not a Photoshop type of you. You just want it to look like you on your best day, because you're going to have to replicate it when you're in person. And the colors that you wear just has to pop out. What else? Yes, that's extremely important. And you want to find a good photographer who you feel comfortable with. That's important too.
And how about the demo reel? How does somebody put something like that together?
Well, I got mine done by doing a lot of student films. And they have a couple really good schools here in Los Angeles, and I believe they do in New York City too. I did student films, and they have really good production facility, production quality, and I got some really good stuff for my demo reel. And then I belonged to another group of actors, a networking group, and what they did was they pooled all their resources. A lot of them they were writers, or they had cameras, lighting equipment, sound equipment. And so we pooled all our resources together, and we created short films every 2 weeks. And everyone that was involved, we'd rotate. If we were an actor, we'd be in the film. If we weren't acting, we would help with the production part of it. So I made about 4 or 5, maybe 6 films that way, and that was really exciting too.
Good.
And then of course,
sorry to interrupt, but a good question. Would you recommend that to the viewer of starting to think about pursuing something, would be to get involved with student film?
Absolutely. Student films, web series. Now, web series, I found out, was a perfect way to get your SAG card. So you can get a SAG waiver, and it's more respectable to get a SAG waiver or your SAG card through a web series than it is through background work. A lot of people, you have to get like 3 SAG slips or waivers to get your SAG card. But I mean, that's a good way to go if you can get it, but it's more respectable if you can get it through a web series, which is very easy to do.
Tell us, what is a web series?
They have, you go on YouTube, and there's all types of web series. I don't know what else to call them. They're like little shows, little comedy shows, little drama shows. They even have Emmys for these web series that you can win an Emmy for. So I would, you can Google that if you want to find out more information. I've never been on a web series, but that's, also you can also create your own web series. If you want to write something and you produce it, or get a group of people that have resources, you could make your own web series. Just have a little story going on. It could be like a 30-minute, a 15-minute story, or it could be like a continuing story, or whatever you want. Put it on the web, put it on YouTube. It's free.
Tell us about Screen Actors Guild and getting your SAG card. What does somebody need to do to get that?
So when I got my SAG card, it was in New York City, and at the time I was really big in country western dancing. There was a country western club there, and there was a soap opera that was doing a scene in a country western club. So they called the club that I was going to find out if there were any dancers, and I was a dancer. So they asked if I wanted to be on the soap opera, and I'm like, yeah. And that was it's considered an under 5. If you have an under 5 in an AFTRA union show, then you can become AFTRA. Well, you can always buy into AFTRA, but now it's combined, so that doesn't even make it doesn't matter. But at the time, it makes you eligible to become a SAG member. So that's how I became a SAG member, to get my card. And then when I came to Los Angeles, a lot of stuff was non-union, and so I immediately became SAG Financial Corps, which is a whole nother story. But go ahead.
Oh, no. Do you recommend that people pursue getting a SAG card or doing what you're talking about? Is that where people need to be to get work?
It depends. I think in New York City, I don't know, at the time that I was there, it was important to have your SAG card to get commercial work, or get an agent, I guess, film and TV. But here in LA, there's so much non-union work, that it's always recommended to wait as long as you can before you get your SAG card, because there's just so much non-union work here that you can do to make a living off of it, really.
For the viewer that is in California or near your neck of the woods in the nation, what do you recommend them doing if they are thinking about pursuing an acting career, dancing, so on and so forth? Is it going to school? Is it getting a teacher? Is it just going to auditions? What would you think that they should do?
The first thing to do is actually get into an acting class. You can audit every single acting class out there and to find out whether you like the teacher, or you understand what they're saying, or you feel comfortable in the class. That's the first thing, is go to an acting class, because then you're going to meet other people, probably working actors, and they can help you too. You need to network with other actors. It's really important, and you need to be a good actor, because there's so much competition out there.
Well, Irene, we're coming to a close. Any closing thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just follow your heart and do your best.
Well, it's been so nice seeing you on camera, and it's so nice having you back in my life, and I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Deborah. It's always a pleasure.
Well, we've been talking with Irene Georgerian, an actress based in California. I hope you have a super day today. Thanks for tuning in to Arts and Entertainment. I'll see you next time.